So, I'm being brave. Finally, I'm going to do a YouTube video on Grandma. A bit of an update on her. I was meant to be doing this every week throughout the restoration, but we're 6 months in and I somehow haven't managed to do a video. I think it's probably fear of hearing my voice on camera, and it's just easier to hide behind Instagram with photos, isn't it? Anyway, I'm just going to give it a go, and if it works out, then perhaps I'll do more video. So, for people who don't know, this is 1964 Series 2A called Grandma, and she's fitted with a 3.5 litre Rover V8. My first car, and I just had her shipped over from the UK just before Christmas, and since then I've done a full restoration. Well, up to the point of where I am now, but the restoration is taking it down to the bare chassis and rebuilding it up. So we've actually made quite a lot of progress, and at least it now resembles a Land Rover. I'll start with the cooling system, which I've been working on the last couple of weeks. Now, there's not a lot of space when you put a V8 in a Series 2A, and a lot of people move the radiator panel forward to accommodate the cooling system, and I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to keep the outside looking as stock as possible. So what I've done is had the engine driven fan has been removed, and in its place I've got this electric fan at the front of the radiator. This is the biggest fan I could find. I think it's 17-inch diameter, and you just see that it couldn't really have been any bigger. Same approach with the radiator, so I just got the biggest one I could get to fit in the gap, and it fits between the two chassis main rails. There's a space here because the steering arm comes back when it's on full lock. Thankfully I'd measured that correctly before ordering this radiator. The radiator isn't ideal because the inlet and outlet are on the wrong side really. They should be switched. Because of where they are, it's meant I've had to do a lot of plumbing, which I'm not good at. So that's why all these pipes are around. Basically taking the outlet from the engine right across to the opposite side for the radiator. That's the top hose, which is made up of, we've got, well, 3 main parts to it really. And that middle bit is metal, which had the bend in it, and it was a bike rack. I don't have the tools to do any pipe bending, so that was the way to go with that. It fits, yeah, it fits nicely now. There's probably about 2.5 centimeters gap between the pulley and the radiator. Originally I had a Series 2A radiator on here, and it was just too small. It was always overheating, and now we're in Australia. I thought it just wouldn't be up for the job, so that's why I've replaced it with this one. Fingers crossed, yeah, fingers crossed it will work. Same with the fan actually. Originally I had one from a Citroen Xantia, and it was just pathetic and rather embarrassing having a Xantia fan. The V8, so at the moment it's missing its inlet manifold and carburetors, and the reason for that is this coolant leak, which was coming from the heater hoses, which is steel, and they run underneath the inlet manifold, and they're a complete mess. So I've taken that off, and I need to rebuild the carburetors and sort out these leaks, because it was just a nightmare. I tried tightening up the bolts thinking it was that, but it just wasn't. So once I've sorted out that, I'll take this gasket off. It's a complete gasket, and be a good opportunity to inspect the top of the engine before putting it all back together again. Wiring, that's been something I've started over the last week. I got this loom from Auto Sparks, labelled everything up before putting it in. Not much of it works correctly. I don't like wiring, I've decided that. It didn't help that the original loom had been modified quite a bit to accommodate the alternator and fuel pump, and just little changes, so the diagrams I've got don't entirely align with what the loom is made up of. This is the ignition, which replaces the Lucas setup. It's Bosch, and it costs a fortune, but it does generate a really good spark, so I'm happy. Headlight is their halogen conversion from Bearmac. Bumper, that's also from Bearmac. The old one was really bent up. The underside, which is so exciting, to me it is anyway. New brake drums all round, Bearmac. You'll notice a theme here with Bearmac. New brake pipes, Bearmac. So the rubber flexible hoses are Bearmac, and so are the metal pipes. I'm not sure what they're made of. Wiring loom that hasn't been tucked in yet. Bearmac leaf springs. Bearmac track rod ends. I just thought replace them. The old ones are rusty and it's definitely a safety item. U-bolts though, new and from Bearmac. Spring hangers are new from Bearmac. New bushes, which were an absolute nightmare, and it's probably a good thing I didn't capture any of that on video. The underside, new fuel tank. Painted up the sills. New stainless steel bolts for the door hinges. New hinge pins with springs from Bearmac. And the bulkhead is actually a replacement item. I was lucky to get one, which was 1964. Had it sandblasted. It required some welding, but nothing too drastic. And it has been modified, so I had this pristine bulkhead and I had to get it cut to fit the V8. I can't weld, so I got someone else to do it. But that's this area is cut just to fit around the exhaust manifolds, and there's a cut on the other side to do the same, which I think's been done well actually, so I'm happy with that. I'll show you inside. Got Exmoor trim, elephant vinyl seats, which is what it had originally. Wiring is in need of attention still. It's all very black inside. Replaced all the floor screws, the other ones are rusty. Bodywork, I took it back to bare metal and etch primed, then a primer, like a filler primer, which had to be sanded, and then 5 coats of acrylic paint. It isn't finished yet in terms of final preparation. I have to sand it very lightly and then polish it with a polishing compound, and it should then come up very shiny. I did do the middle panel just because I was desperate to see what it would look like, and it's come up really nicely. But yeah, the rest of it needs to be polished. I won't do that until I finish the restoration of all the rest of it. Door locks, they are Bearmac anti-burst ones, and they made such a difference. Really easy to shut the door now, which it never was before. Beautiful. Nuts and bolts are all stainless steel where possible. Refurbished the Lucas windscreen wiper motors, new terminals. There's a place in the UK that makes these terminals with the rubber boots. It's probably overkill. Wheels and tyres, they're going to be replaced with some black steel wheels and different tyres which come from a Parenti, the Australian Land Rover. These Goodyear G90s are lethal in wet, so I'll be pleased to get rid of those. Exhaust system, that came from the UK, which is custom made for moving around. The back's very dusty at the moment. I've had a new rear quarter chassis, which was a big job because the chassis had been modified slightly and it just took a bit of work to get it to fit. That's a Bearmac item. Really glad we did that because the old one was just horrible. The back, it's been painted, but this is going to be lined with rubber mat, and I'm going to get 4 independent Exmoor trim seats. They're being made up at the moment. Just showing you down that side. And that's it really. It doesn't look like much when you look at it. Feel free in the comments below to ask any questions. I mean, I've been looking at this thing for ages, so there's probably things I should have pointed out and talked about, but I'm overlooking. Yeah, and I hope you found the video interesting.